Hi, everybody out there in Facebook land. So, it's the harmonic flux of the universe, but I'm here now. But I'd like to welcome you to the Native Wellness Power Hour, and I believe it's week 64. So, I always like to make up little rhymes when I hear numbers or little dates. So 64 and plenty more. But my name is Lori NewBreast, and I'm a member of the Blackfoot Confederacy, or the Blackfoot Tribe, or Blackfeet Tribe, whatever you want to say. I'm affiliated, but I'm just really excited to be here today. Before this, I was rushing around and making sure that, the weather, coming to you from the Blackfeet Reservation. Sometimes the weather comes into the power hour, and I always take that as a reminder about, how connected we always are to our environment, all our cultures, and the relationships that we formed with every aspect of creation. That's our gig, right? As Indigenous people. So today the topic is wellness in the future, renewal and the future. So I had wanted to start off with, I kind of had, I want to be practical, but we go up to the universe and throughout the galaxy, then we come back to our little portal here in Facebook land or YouTube land, or right here, right now. I'm zooming to Facebook. So which means I can't see any of your comments, but I can look at them later. That's the thing. The internet's kind of eternal in some senses, as long as the grid holds up. But I wanted to share with you a technique that I learned from Johnny Lazon and from Sadie Buck. They're members of the First Nations up in Canada. But there was always a humor when we talked about sort of the cycles of renewing. And sometimes it's moment to moment. We have been in a collective experience where it's still the pandemic. Okay, some Indians can run farther than the other Indians right now, or leave their houses, go do stuff, get a latte. Some Indian somewhere is having a latte at their powwow, right? But we're all in different kind of, coming out of the chute kind of status for Indigenous communities during this time. But this is a technique that it is directly related to your well-being. And you practice self-sovereignty, self-care, whatever you want to, term it in the English language. But it's how to take your Indian temperature. It has nothing to do with enrollment, so don't be getting your hackles up. But really, it's talking about like assessing in a moment, like your own reality check. Do I need to take a pause? Do I need to start this again? Do I need a pause in a conversation? Start the conversation again? Even if you're just talking to yourself, right? So it's real easy. So you take your palm, and it doesn't matter if it's left or right or left, whatever it may be. And you simply put it close to your mouth and you exhale. So, just exhale. And you sort of assess the temperature of that breath exhaling. So right now we're going to do it at the end again. But now take your Indian temperature. Okay? And it's sort of also like when I've heard Lee Miracle from the Stolo people up in BC, talk about this, it's kind of like the air has its own quality. So the air out here has its own quality, and so does our air that we internally share with the universe as we process through our body. And sometimes when you might feel like maybe you didn't maybe quite get enough sleep, or there might be something that's causing you to exert all your synapses, and some people use the word stress, but you kind of need some level of expectation. That's another way to think of stress. What is expected? What is your expectation? And so sometimes if your air is cool, so it's on the cool side, that is an indicator that you just take a couple of breaths, because it's an indicator that your body is processing that air in a different way, that the expectations may be not working in your favor, or another way, I guess the Star Wars related way to say it is the force is not working with you. And if the force is your will, or the force is the universe, you need to adjust. So that's kind of like a minute review. So if it's cool, if your breath is cool, maybe you've been sitting at your computer terminal, or maybe listening to this when you're driving, and or some other condition. And so if your breath is a little cool and you've been sitting a while, just wiggle your toes wherever you're at, right? Just wiggle your toes. And you're just helping your blood highway change the condition of your body. Because really what you're looking for in that breath, like right now, my breath is warm. And so this just said my internet connection is unstable. So let me take it again. Still warm. So that's just a little tool, and then we'll take it at the end. And so there's things in between that you can do. You can take some really relaxed breaths, where you're really engaging your back. Your breath is from your back to your stomach, or your, right under your diaphragm. And you let that fully expand so you can take in a good breath. And I'm doing it right now. And the other thing that does is it changes the tone in your voice. So I'm also going to, kind of dwell a little bit into that a lot of the, like I'll give an example. If I did this, everyone pretty much knows, right? Right. And then if I did this, or your body gives us signals off, it communicates to what your condition is. So I also wanted to just share with you, and using the English language, is that there is, like in the universe, our harmonic, our tonal connection in the universe can be, and it is culturally specific. So part of what the teachings of the ancestors on how we heal, how we renew, how our culture supported that. And my pug she needs her own support right now. Oh, you may hear her if she barks, then I'll have to do some pug management here. But just a second, let me. Here's Ladybug. And what she's looking at, it has nothing to do with her great love for me as her servant, her human servant. I had a small salad, and because it's okay for her to eat carrots, that's what she was after. It wasn't her great love for me, although she loves me greatly. But so when I was thinking about today, that we all come from cultures that supported through collective action, renewal of our relationship to each other, to our communities, to our way of life, but also our renewal of relationships to everything in creation. And we did that through this time of year that for the Northern Hemisphere, the summertime brings specific things. Where my people live, or the people that I belong to live, this through a tempo that hasn't really changed and was not totally suppressed over the last 500 years. The tempo has remained the same. You approach this time of year and there's expectations that people will come together. However your people come together, they come together for a collective renewal. But the preparations and the renewing of relationships have continued throughout the year, and they will continue again when we come into the fall time. So I was thinking about that, and we've adapted, right? We, pretty much during this last year, all communities have adapted to this medium. But now we have like a collective to be together again in person. And if you want to say, we've had a year of where to preserve our lives and to preserve our cultures, we have pulled back, and we've even been restricted. We've been restricted through our movements, but we still have that connection, that spiritual connection that could go through this medium, that transcends any piece of technology, that is what the string to our ancestors who lived before us is on, that connection. And so there are moments where we take in our cultures to renew. And when all the voices are singing or speaking or breathing collectively, that does something to the collective spirit to renew. And as we are, now she wants to make sure that there's not a tidbit left on my pug, a tidbit left that she must seek out. But so as we're all coming together and we share in that, when we hear, we collectively hear together. If we're listening to the song that the ancestors have gifted us through the creators, if you want to say, generosity to our human condition, and gifting songs that are particular to every culture. Let me see, she's running. Oh, I see. If you could see, she could have her own show. Maybe I'll start her own channel. Res Pug on the move. But so when we come together, there are things that happen. The people here, they move, they smell. I'm not saying, you go, but if I said, what is the smell of maybe this earth medicine that your people use? What does it smell like? Or what is this smell? And you smell a particular earth medicine, people they're starting to use all of their faculties, right? They're starting to associate, to remember, to think. And you start creating through smell, if you want to say, a capsule of togetherness. Although it transcends whatever little, whatever gathering you're at, because that's its power. And so you start making those connections when you smell. And when we would gather at this time of the year, or anytime you gather for the collective good, and you have those earth medicines present. So things start happening to you. Your brain starts becoming engaged. And then sound. Many of us have been gifted in our cultures, the drum, or, the other implements, or there's some, people that have clappers. We all have sound that brings us collectively together. And one of our elders early on in my work with youth, when we were reintroducing in the 90s, the drum making back into our culture or our community here. And people were giving us advice, and we had to gather from knowledgeable people, then reshare in a way advice. And one of the pieces of wisdom that Gertie Heavy Runner, who's in her 90s, so we're very blessed to still have her. She said, remember, one drum can unite thousands of people. And that's all she said. And that's how powerful sound is. And so those cultural sounds, maybe for some people, it's the moving of the grass, or it's the wind through certain types of trees that they may use, or, what does it sound like when an eagle feather flutters? Those sounds are things that we've been gifted in creation, that they help us renew. So we listen, hear those sounds, and we start engaging our brain, our whole person. And then we might hear a song, and that human voice is engaging the person again. And then finally, we might sing, or we may speak, or our prayers go from silent to spoken out loud. But there's also, during this pandemic, we're living a time of renewal. Sometimes it's 5 times a day, 20, 30. But every day that like, this would just be like a great, like I could visualize this. Every day that an Indian gets up, it's already a good day, because you rise up through a physical movement. You call on all those things, and poof, we stand up, and there, creation is already waiting to greet us. All of those beautiful things. And so today, I was talking earlier this morning with one of my relatives and then one of my friends, and about how then we start to be heard. And sometimes the level during this past couple of 10 days, the level has changed of the indigenous voice. And during that time, I've heard like people talk about, like, you know, if you're certain gender or, you know, whatever gender you identify with, you know, we're all creators' children, um, that how people perceive you in this medium, right? So acknowledging that all our ancestors, whatever culture you came from, they teach you. They teach you in words that pre-existed before contact. They teach you in how our languages were so agile and so living, because the action tempo is a living. We lived through our languages lived through us. And so that hasn't changed, because language at its spiritual root does not have a human origin. And so there is a way that we can encourage each other, we can honor our own personal journeys, we can share if we know more words, or, you know, if we know songs, with if we know the protocols, there's a lot of ways to sound that we can encourage each other with their healing. And they can be really fun. So if you're an Anishinaabe speaker or a Cree speaker, see, even how I say speaker, that's affected by where I live. So I'm going to take a healthy risk, because that's also what renewal is. Renewal is going from your inside discussions or your inside condition, or the condition that you find your condition in, and stepping forward to gather with other people. Going out on the land by yourself to reconnect. If you've had a hard day and you come home and you have good running, you know, heated water, or you have an opportunity to shower, and you need to reboot your day because you need to be with your family, or you need to honor that evening time, getting ready for the dream time at night. And you take a shower and you ask that water, you know, help me. Take off those things that were maybe hard today, or that broke your heart, because you were mended. You can be mended by water. Drinking water. See, I got my little cup, and then I was like, ooh, should I cover now that, because this is a corporation that all Indians love? All blankets accepted. But water has that property to renew wherever you're at. And one of my teachers that was from Ontario, Manitoba border, and he did not have, he didn't say this might happen. He told me in the future, or wherever you go, which meant it was my immediate future. I would go for where I was with him, and I would go somewhere else, right? So that's a definition of the future. Is he told me, remember, always smell your water before you drink it. And I have thought about that a lot. And when I would check into, like, if, you know, through my life, if I was staying in a hotel, usually, thank you, somebody else might have been paying for it. But if I was staying in a hotel and I asked them at the front desk, can I drink the tap water? Sometimes, like, I'd seen the shock on their face, but I was in this moment living that instruction that I had received about smell your water. So I do, you know, and there was talk about even then, getting a big glass container and carrying your home water with you, or of an exchange of water if you're going to go visit, a far off place, that you offer your water to that water. Like, so there's a lot of teachings about how we renew through water. But let's say you came home or sometimes, if the wind's blowing and it's summer here, you kind of get exfoliated from the dust. And so you can ask that water through the pouring over your body to help you. So there's that type of renewal. And then there's some fun ones. So I wanted, because you could participate wherever you are at. So in my people's way, when we greet people, it's a greeting. We say, okay, okay, right? Not okie from Muskogee or anything like that. Okay, or okay. And I've heard, because I've traveled to their land safely and I've returned home safely, from the Anishinaabe people, Ani, Tanzi. I have, this sounds funny, but in our history, pound maker that led the Cree Confederacy and Crowfoot, that was one of our chiefs at the Blackfoot Confederacy, long before any of us were born. They made a compact where people, they call it, like, they made peace. And it is in the era where we realized, or through their all their faculties, that the gifts that they received, that we needed each other during this time. But we didn't all have to suddenly be the same, because they expected to move forward as the people and the cultures they were. So I take heart from that. And so today, when we think about, when we hear before we speak, but when we speak, we're all gifted with, if you want to say, a harmonic universal tone. And that tone, it was explained to me one time that by Reggie Croshu, that we must preserve that tone. So that's when I learn a word like a greeting like Ani, Tansi, I listen to that person saying it, and in my body can replicate that. And I do my best, because I want to show them that long ago compact agreement, or that collective agreement, where we will meet in the future, we will need each other. And it's okay, we be who we are. You be who you be, right? They knew that a long time ago. So as this living generation, I honor that. I do my best to listen and to honor their greeting. But I also like to, maybe in the future, some of you will be in the same room with me. I also like to honor that action part of living. And so I just want to give you another practical exercise that you can do right now. But if it's maybe you're sitting in your cubicle eating your lunch or something, I don't know what you're doing, or you're driving, or you're at a meeting where somebody wants to, it's something important, or you're at the doctor, I don't know what you're doing, a Costco, I'm waiting for it says your internet connection is unstable. So I was going to make a joke about Costco, because there you must engage all those ancient hunting skills and all your horseback riding skills. because you must maneuver your cart strategically to get out of Casca. But I want to give you a practical sort of renewal to your speaking voice. So there's a real simple exercise that you could do, and it affects your voice. So I want you to listen to my voice. I wore my Shift Happens shirt. So shift happens. So then if I go, and you can follow along, you could do this too. And then I say it again, shift happens. Without any greater effort, by merely doing and changing the air and letting the air renew itself and sputter out and then take a breath in, my whole speaking component changes and shift happens. But I wanted to use greetings also to show this. So let's say if I use okay, and I start saying it enough times, okay, 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 you start hearing a rhythm in a word. But you could do it with anything. Let's see. Let me show in the English language, you know, this has become like a sacred. I don't know if they're going to build a temple like for mobile phones, but it's like kind of like sacred, right? Oh my precious. But let's use that word phone. So if you take and you say phone, and my dog's trying it right now. If you say phone, 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 the type of part that becomes loosened and the air can fully expand and you can use the sound from it is this one. Let's see, I might have to let her out. Excuse me, come on. The life of a pug on the res is never boring. So when you use words and you find, because words right now, if we say the humans are part of creation, but words sometimes can be used to separate us from creation. And I think that that's some of the experience that we've had with the phone, with posting during the pandemic. We needed this medium, the whole thing, to get through to the time we're at now. But as we're being re-socialized and we're starting to appear in gatherings, we really need to think about this. What is this role? And so I like to use different parts. And if you say phone with me, so phone, 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 what part goes is here. And there's another way just to use this part and loosen it up. And it's real easy. Me, it's all about me. And so those are ways that you, no matter where you're at, in the shower or wherever you're at, you can begin to use those words to reintegrate back to the tone outside of language. Because all of those words are just tones put together. That's all they are in a belief system. And each of us, if we were born into a culture, or if you had parents or grandparents from many cultures and you come together, all of those cultures took those tones that exist and it came out through humans as language. And we're in really a flowering, a beautiful time in all Indigenous communities where we've worked on our collective healing journey, where people are starting, supporting, having opportunities through this portal to connect. You know, you can't keep Indians apart. And it's really beautiful to see the things that we are continuing. And I just want to say that on many days when I think of my ancestors and my grandparents, my father's generation, or my father, I'm lucky, my mom, I'm blessed. My mom is still with the living generation. But I really feel that we are paying back to them through our good efforts to move forward into the future in a good way. And it's in those moments, it's not said that, oh, you know, sort of like, these are all our great deeds. But the fact that we all got up this morning, that we greet the day, and that the living generation that has made it through this last year, it is about all of those things that they wished for us, that we would, in hard times, gather and care for everybody to move forward together and share what we have. So there's been a lot of really like brilliant and positive things. But I also want to be mindful that how we move forward, we don't have to replicate when we gather again. Maybe things we were getting that weren't meeting our needs. Or now time is just time, but now our experience will be different. So when we gather and you prepare to put your best ancestor foot forward, if you want to say, is that you think about or you consider, and this is what I'm doing, I'm considering what role will that phone have? If I see a friend I haven't seen for a long time, yes, you're going to take those pictures. Yes, you're going to maybe, do you have to check your messages while you talk to them for the first time after this pandemic? The first powwow that you go to, the first conference that you regather at, you know, it will be okay if those phones are set to the side for that engagement or for part of that engagement. Because I think it's really important that to reconnect to people in a person-to-person way. And really, if I thought about all the ancestors, all the children, that when you see a child again and they know you and they want to be with you, they don't pull out their phone, start snapping, documenting everything about it. They engage with you. So that little inner child also, sometimes when we think of renewal, is to think about that child we were and to really recommit to all those fun things about being with people. The laughter, the joking, the sharing of food. The one though I haven't figured out, and but I asked one of my friends that anybody have a relative that likes, or prior to the pandemic, like to eat or sample out of other people's plates? I have a few relatives, but I also have a few friends that they were great samplers. And I asked them, do you think we'll be able to share food? Can you ever give me, will you know, like, I'd share my fork with you, I guess, is how we'll have to say, you know, how close we want to be with people around our relatives. Like, can I share my fork with you? Or you know, because I had this experience with my mom, and I was like, we could eat off that same spoon because we only had one spoon and we were on the road. And then I thought about it and I said, but maybe we better not chance it, you know, because even though we're both vaccinated, but there's a lot of things to think about when we regroup. And that's part of renewal, that the beauty of what happened during this time of year in the summer months when people gather for specific renewal experiences, they did not, some people did not the morning of or the night before, but often the preparation started the last year, or the preparation started for somebody that maybe is a singer that carries a part of the gathering. Maybe their preparation started when they were 5 and now they're 40. So the preparation to gather is our way of life, is you prepare to renew. So one of like this, her English name was May. So one of the things she said one time when she was, I went across the border in the good old days. And when I went to her camp, she was really busy and I was helping her and stuff. And then somebody said, well, they were saying, oh, it's hot. You know, they were kind of like, you know, saying, oh, you know, it's hot. You're on the prairie in the summer. It's kind of hot. And so they said, well, hey, you know, they were asking her about, she had been up since about 5 and she had been busy all day. And one of the things she said is, I can rest, you know, like I could take a lot of rest later. Now I'm busy. But she had already was saying, I'm in the moment now. I'm in this work, you know, or in this cultural moment where I am busy. I'm carrying a lot of responsibility. I'm doing good. I'm doing the best. You know, just she was just a marvelous person. But she said, I can do that later. She was already planning for her renewal, her rest. And I had a great experience that I am really grateful for, where people I knew as children, I was in a business setting where they were the facilitator. And that is a dream come true, that I see that people that I knew as children, now they're assuming their role of being in that super active role. And so they use this term, and I guess there's a book, and you know, you can look it up or whatever, you could Google it, that rest is resistance. And I don't know, like I try not to think of I'm resisting against too many things because that clicks off something else in my balance. But rest was always seen as a part of our well-balanced life, and rest is. So I want to talk a little bit in the few minutes that we have left, that to rest is preparing for the future. And there are many, many ways to rest. So right now, before I talk just a little bit about the future, although I've already talked a little bit, take your Indian temperature again. Remember your hand, whichever you choose. So my breath is actually a little warmer probably because I was doing those exercises, or, you know, those little techniques, and you know, sometimes I make up rhymes when I read something in the headlines of the news, or sometimes I avoid the news and then I listen to it a week later and it's still the same thing. So, but so renewal is about the future. Renewal, if it's rest, if it's gathering, if you people are able to together through any medium, this medium, in person, during this next coming season, it is about the future because you're committing to receive once again those same teachings that before we entered the world, that same type of really openness through dreams, letting your body relax, letting all the little cells do what they do to restore so that you can, in the future, arise and once again engage. And there might be changes you want to make in terms of that, you know, in the good, or we like to say, you know, in the summer months or in the warm weather months. I've heard it saying a lot in English in our community, or they used to joke, we have two weeks of summer and the rest is just winter. Like, you know, because we would have cold temperatures. But however you define this coming part, these next couple of months, rest is preparing for the future. And restoring, renewing, if it's in the moment, if you are now, you know, now we're asked again to change up what we've been doing. And although maybe it's everyone's heart desire to gather in person again, we have to prepare for that because we're many people in our communities under the age of 12, they don't have the opportunity to be vaccinated. And they are not, we have to be mindful of the children of whatever we do as we move forward. Because we want to make sure that they are always considered in what way we reconvene. And, but I also want to talk about that in, I had asked a couple of people because I noticed there were ways that we are given in all cultures to help people meet the future, to prepare them. And then there are like real practical things that during this time, during when the, you know, the earth is again, the green, after the green grass, the flowers come, the blossoms come, the berries come, the seeds come. If you were from a seed collecting culture, there is signs in the natural world that cue us that it's time to prepare again to be out on the land. And there are many changes that we've all went through, but going into the future, I don't know, well, you know, like I could say what my hunch is, or I could say, but what I know for sure is the teachings that our ancestors received from the Creator. Those will continue because they're given. Who are they given by? And our responsibility, our compact with our human family is that we do our best. And we also take time to do our best for ourselves through that commitment to renewing, being the best we can. And there are a lot of techniques like, you know, that for human beings where you can affect your stress. I was at a gathering and we exchanged gifts. So I gave in my gift a mood ring. Some of you might not know what those are. They're like, but it had come from a technique of working with people that where when they talked about something they had to give up, it changed their physical body and their, what people will call like their stress indicators. And one of them was that their hands became cold. And through this medium, when a story comes through, or a sharing, community to community, we share stories, good, bad, fantastic, questioning, um, and some things, there's so much humor on the internet, like good humor, where nobody is shamed, blamed, or otherwise. Like, there's good humor. Me, myself, I follow a couple dogs on all platforms because, hey, dogs are interesting. But that's another indication. So your Indian temperature can be, check your breath, but also if you're indoor, or even if you're in your car or outdoors, and there's something, that information you're receiving, or maybe your mind starts going future thinking about something that hasn't happened, a task or something, is to periodically, maybe even just now, are your hands, what temperature are they? And what that is about, it's about your blood highway. And so everybody knows how to rub hands. Check your forearms. Are your forearms warm? Check your cheeks. And there are little body checks that you can do. And we're made to be warm, right? In the last year, the temperature, people were checking their temperature. I have to check my temperature every time I go into the tribal store, put my little face in there. But also that's a necessary thing, to be aware of yourself. Oh my, okay, it says my internet connection's unstable. It's almost right on cue. We're at the top of the hour, but check your hands, because it may be an indicator that you need to take a pause, take a breath. You need to say, okay, oh, or me. Oh, had my phone go off. Or, that you just need to take a breath and help that good oxygen get to the blood highway so that you can start to renew in the moment. But I think there's going to be a fantastic energy as we all again gather in large groups outside our communities, outside our bubbles, outside our families. And a lot of people celebrated through in our communities, where people would have a parade, or, like if somebody was in times past, if somebody was coming into camp, they would start announcing their arrival with the song, with their voice, with the drum. And because in my community, the drum and songs occurred with our allies in the park, in the Glacier National Park, I like to think of that drum, that was that tone throughout all the mountain ranges. Now they passed it on, that there was an announcement. And we like to call it the backbone of the world. And those of you that know members of the Blackfoot Confederacy, we own it. So to see that tone, that vibration was sent out, that's a thought, a memory now, that through this season I'll carry forward. And that's what I wish for you, because we were all touched by that tone, no matter where you are at in the globe. And that was why those songs were sung, so that we can move out. We can join with our allies. We can celebrate whatever human family you come from, that we made a marker where we can start to gather again. But like our compact, our pledge to the children, the living generation now, the future generations, that we will do that to honor all those commitments that enabled us to get here, to have life in this time. So I wish for you a hot breath day, a song on your tips of your tongues, and that you have good water today, and that I am able to see you again, up body heat to body heat, or however close you're comfortable in the future. And to thank the Native Wellness Institute again for carrying forth these power hours, and that a reminder that you can watch them again here and also on the YouTube or the Instagram, or, all those platforms now that pretty much, some Indians almost talk about like social media, like it's your cousin. Well, Facebook said, Instagram said, and I just find that funny. We got a new cousin. They're electronic, and they're just like some of those cousins. It's okay to put them down. It's okay to unplug. But I wish you a beautiful day, and thank you for joining the Native Wellness Power Hour again. So I'll see you later. Bye.